Welcome to the Flyers Nitty Gritty Podcast, Gettin Gritty With It, with your hosts, Yariv and Jamie Baskow. Again, not here for another episode, but we got another member of the team today. Joe Borek is on, and obviously my good friend Anth Merrigan back on the podcast. Joe, how you doing?
Doing okay. I mean, we would have liked to see a better first game, but, still a good day. Got some work done, was productive day, so doing solid here. How about you?
You're being easy on him, dude. I'm doing well, thanks, buddy. Ant, how you doing, man?
I'm going to kind of mirror what Joe just said. Would have wished for a better first game there. There were glimpses of hope, but overall not bad. We're all still here, so.
Yeah, no, the world did not end, though.
Not yet.
Though I will say, I know, right? At this point, 2020. I will say it was definitely a disappointment. And I think it was disappointment, and, well, we got a whole slew of topics, but I think from disappointment really was the way it started. Just the game, the way the puck dropped, it's just like the energy of the game, you're like, uh-oh. And so let's talk about it. Flyers come out, game one against the Islanders. Quite frankly, they fall short. They show maybe the worst first period they've had the entire playoff, including the round robin, obviously, as well. A very nice rebound in the second period, probably maybe their best hockey, actually, of the games past the round robin. And then the third period, which, again, was kind of a disappointment, but not a terrible display. I wouldn't say that they were outclassed or anything in the third, but I think at that point the game was kind of lost in a lot of ways, and I think that's the danger of the Islanders. So the Flyers go down 1-0 in the series. Not a huge shocker of a loss for the Flyers, but obviously not something we wanted to see. I'm going to go to Anthony first on this one. Ant, what did you think about the loss?
So, I had a little bit of a rant earlier on Facebook just because I saw a lot of people's reactions and whatnot, and I was like, all right, let me just kind of break this down because I actually missed the first period. Thankfully, it sounds like I was playing myself, so I caught it from the second period on. So I'm just taking it from what I saw. I thought the second period they played great, probably the best period of playoffs so far, like you had said. From the loss, I noticed that it was a lot of self-inflicting wounds, just like I said earlier in my rant here. A lot of self-inflicting wounds, a lot of blown coverages where people are just trying to do a little too much, and what winds up happening is one person, it's like a domino effect. One person blows it, the next person blows it, and then it trickles down the lane there. So I don't know if you're going to break down each individual goal, but, on 3 of the 4 goals, minus the weird pulling of the goalie with 7 minutes left, they were all self-inflicted wounds, quite honestly. So whether they were hemmed in their own zone of points and stuff like that, that's hockey. It's going to happen. Unfortunately, the Flyers just couldn't bury the puck in the second period from what I saw. That could have been a game changer.
Point. Joe, what do you think, Ben?
I think the first period was what completely lost us that game. I mean, you came out flat. The one guy that really showed one shift, he showed one shift at the beginning, which I think made AV overplay him after that, thinking he was fully back and didn't need an adjustment game, was Knack. He had that one first good shift, and then all of a sudden he was played a lot in his first, more than I think he should have been in his first game back. But he just needed to get his legs back, and I'm not worried about him, but I think the first period we were off, and I think it really had to do with the lineup. This is really the first time I ever came into a game and went, because there's sometimes this year where I went, I don't agree with this decision, but I think the lineup will still work. This was the one game I literally went in and went, I don't agree with this decision, and there's no shot in hell this is working. This was the one game I went, JVR has sucked. Don't get me wrong, he's looked bad, but he has to park himself in front of the net and just do that in order to. Varlamov's a goalie that has always been his best. One, when you get him the first goal, but two, when he can see, like most goalies, he's never been a small guy quick in his prime that could look through the little caveats to see the puck when you get pressure in front of the net. Even in our good second period, I liked our shots. I would have still liked to have a bigger body guy to just park himself in front of the net so we could get ugly goals like we got in the first series, because you can't have Raffle being one of your only guys consistently going in front of the net. You need more from that. And Hag also I think that was a mistake not to put him in against the Islanders, because the Islanders are not exactly the Canadians. They have more stronger guys too, where let's dump it in, but then we're also going to play through you. The Canadians play through you on their defense. They don't play through you on their offense also. So that's why I think that was a mistake. I think that'll adjust tomorrow and everything will balance itself out again. But this was the first time going into the game I knew the lineup wasn't going to work just going in, most likely.
It's very interesting, actually. I actually also am not enamored with the lineup. I do want to point out the Ghost thing, though. I don't think Ghost necessarily had a bad game, though, and that's where, and that's
Ghost
where
isn't the guy I would take out, actually.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I'm tired of seeing Justin. I like Braun too, but he's been average, and he's going to be off the team next year anyway, probably because of the salary cap.
For sure, but he's a righty. He's a righty, and that's so. Here's the complication, right? Because let's say you take out Braun, which I am interested in, right? I'm always interested because I actually would give Ghost a shot in there. And my thought was actually to try Ghost, maybe in a higher position, like maybe even playing with Niskanen. I mean, the way this team has played in the playoffs, I don't think we should be married to our line combinations. And that's where I'm totally open to something new for next game. I don't think they should go anything drastic, but maybe go back to what worked and modify that rather than what they got to up to this game and then modify from there, because I really don't. Like, I know why he made all the decisions he made. I can rationalize all of them. They're not stupid decisions to put Giroux with Grant and with Lawton. These are not dumb decisions. I understand why they do them. Separate, try to create offense, right? But at the end of the day, it feels like our lineup is a mess in some kind of ways, and we were so solidified coming in here. I don't feel that now, so I would actually like to see a change. I would welcome a change. I would go back to what we started coming in, and then maybe tweak that a little bit, and then maybe you have to play Lawton as third-line center if it's not working. And then there's the question of Frost. And what do you think over there? You look like you got to say
Yeah. So I agree with Joe 100%. I actually had a conversation with someone earlier about the JVR thing. Like, he is kind of what they're missing on from a power play perspective too. And like Joe said, he's a guy good in front of the net. If he sucks at everything else, whatever. I mean, you do need to be good in your own zone, but he's good in front of the net. He does get in the way of the goalie, and he does have hands there. Like, there are times where he goes on these streaks and he doesn't score, but he's creating opportunities at least in front of the net. So I was kind of like questioning that as well. Why wasn't he actually in the lineup? And Yariv, you alluded to the fact that they kind of did go back to what worked before, putting Giroux back on that top line. And he's another guy that just, these guys need to get going in order to win. And to the point of not being married to any lines or anything, why would we be married to lines? We haven't looked great in any game. Like, there hasn't been one game where I'm like, oh, they dominated that game, they deserve to win that game. We talked about this a little bit offline, where even in the Canadian series, every one of those games could have gone either way, quite honestly.
I think one game, the Flyers, the one they won 2-0, that was the only game where I'm like, that was a low-scoring game, but the Flyers were in control. But I do agree with you. The other ones, that's not the way the regular season felt. So, like, the point, they didn't play that way even in the round-robin games. It's like when the stakes went up, the mistakes started growing, and that's where the Islanders beat us. And I think that's why they won that game. In the beginning of that game, Sean Couturier goes out and throws a puck into the center of ice. I'm like, what? When your best player, arguably your best player, right, and you're definitely your best defensive forward, makes that kind of play, that sets the tone for the game. And that really set the tone for that period. The Flyers responded well, which I thought was great, but I was so livid during that first period.
Coots also had a weird misread, which I don't blame him for, because it's a cardinal sin to have both of your defensemen behind the net in a hockey game. So I don't really necessarily blame Coots for that, because Sanheim and Myers should not be behind the net. The reason I just bring that up is 9 out of 10 times Coots probably is going to recognize with his defensive awareness to stay in front of the net, where for some reason that time he also went behind the net, and that's what left him wide open. I think that was Lee. That's somebody, whoever punched that in front on that goal. But, I mean, he was just wide open in front of the net, and you can't do that, so.
Yeah, and that really mimics what I was saying earlier. As when what happened was, if you watch the play in detail, Myers gets beat, right? He had a guy there and he got beat. He took the wrong side of the puck. He didn't take the D side of the puck. So, like you said, Joe, Coots goes below the goal line to kind of cover for him in a way, right? And again, it's a little flip pass that just gets by Coots' skate, but that's how hockey is. It's a game of inches. But Coots made that play probably because he was overcompensating from a bad play from Myers. Myers was in the corner. If you look at the play, he's behind, I think it was Komarov, right? He was behind him on the play instead of being between him and the net. As a 5-year-old, you're told to be between the puck and the net, and you're in a better position. So it's just one of those things, Joe, like you said, 9 times out of 10, he'll recognize that he needs to cover the front of the net because there's 2 D guys stuck behind the net, which should never happen anyway. But just like on the, I think it was the first goal, Lawton, same thing. Lawton leaves Green to go back and make a stupid play to try to cover someone. Puck goes right back to Green, shot on net. If Lawton stays with this guy, that shot never gets off. That puck goes into the corner, and we get out of the first period maybe unwounded at that point. So it's just those minor details of the game that they kind of messed up on, and they're overcompensating is what it comes down to. And you saw that in the Habs series as well. They overcompensated. They're gripping their sticks too tight, and that's what's kind of making this team like, what's actually going on here? Where's their confidence at?
Right.
Yeah, Lotz is a guy you. Oh, sorry, I was just going to say he's a guy you rarely see that from. Normally, he's knows what he's doing, calm, chill, and collected on the ice. Now you're kind of looking for him to go back to that next game too. He's been a little off with those. Let me try to get it to my defenseman, and then it goes right to someone else in front of the net on the other team. I don't think we're going to see that continue to happen. I think we're going to see them like smart adjustments, kind of like all of us were hinting at going into tomorrow's game.
Yeah, no, I think you both nailed it. I mean, that's why it was so infuriating because at least that's the why I felt like Anthony and I did an episode before this, and I was flying high about the Flyers, and I was not worried about Montreal. I still was never worried about the Canadiens. I was more angry at the Flyers the entire time, knowing that they were going to win, because I'm seeing them play a way that they can't win a Stanley Cup because the attention to detail, it's like they're giving it away. And that's why I get angry. Everybody wants to ride on the Islanders like they're this amazing club. And again, not to take away from them, they are a great team. I even made a video about it. But all of the teams remaining are great teams. The Avs are down 2-0 in a series. How many people would have thought that? Anthony was high on Dallas. Not everybody was high on Dallas, right? And now you don't know what's going to happen. All of the teams are good. So that's why the attention to detail is so important. And when I see a team like the Islanders, who I know are coming in with attention to detail, like I already know that that's the case. It's like playing the New Jersey Devils, Lamoriello again, back in the day. You know you're walking into that, and then to see that type of performance in the beginning, I'm just like, that is the exact opposite. And it's just everything was just felt so avoidable. And then once they got it all together and they had that real puck support, so even if they did make a mistake, at least there was somebody in that vicinity to cover for your mistake. That's where everything starts gelling together. And if they play like that again, I mean, I think it gets swept in 4. And I mean that honestly. They lost that game in the first period because the Islanders just came in, they scored a goal, and then played their game the entire way through. And even though we played well, I would still even argue we're a better ball keeper, but that doesn't matter if you can't execute. And I know I was very frustrated with that game personally. Yeah. So yeah. All right. So we talked about why the Flyers lost. We know why we lost. Lack of scoring is still an issue, though. Don't have goals from our big guys, and I do want to talk about that a little bit. I mean, obviously Voracek's been putting up points, so that feels great. He hasn't been playing his best hockey, but he also doesn't look bad, in particular. He's been doing what he does in a lot of ways. Now, the two guys I think I want to talk about mostly are Giroux and Couturier, but let's throw Travis Konechny in there as well. Hayes has had a lot of opportunities, and I would argue Konechny as well. But these are 3 guys with Konechny, Giroux, and Couturier. We have to get these guys going. JVR included, I would even say. 3 of those guys just had a baby. I mean, do you guys see this turning around next game? Joe, I'll go to you first on this one. Do you think next game might be the one where maybe Coots buries a couple goals, or maybe G finally gets it, and we see a little bit of this offense rolling, at least to the point where we get like a power play goal by one of them to some degree?
Yeah, well, I mean, our power play, if we can actually what I see from there is we need to run more like we did in the regular season, designed like we did the one play and against Montreal, we had that center in the middle of, or in the center of the ice. We ran a play there and we looked okay, but it seems like it's the same. Let's cycle it around the boards, hope we can get to the puck, and then every team's defense is like, cool, they're doing the same thing again. Let's just deck this guy over here. Like, it seems like they just read it every time, where we have to put a wrinkle in our power play. It's been very predictable. And our 5-on-5 play has not been that much unpredictable either. Like, we need to do some different things to actually throw a wrinkle in it for Barry Trotz and the Islanders, because we know, just like AV's a very good coach, you're going up against a damn good one on the other end. So you can't keep doing these ticky-tacky get into the zones and hope you can find the puck along the corner boards and get one of those lucky passes where you steal it from somebody like Bergeron did in the Boston game and then just pass it in front of the net. That doesn't normally happen against Tampa, but it sure as hell doesn't normally happen against the Islanders, who tend to protect the puck with the best of them. So this team just has to get more consistent, more physical too. I said it in one video. I looked for a fight to set the tone in the first 10 minutes of last game. There wasn't much physicality in the first 10 minutes of last game. So I would look for that to happen again, because I think somebody needs to set the tone on this team. And I wouldn't be surprised if that somebody that fights is someone that doesn't normally fight, because that sets the tone more so than if like a Nate Thompson drops the glove. If someone like Jake goes out there and says, okay, let's come get some, or
Giroux.
Someone like Giroux or Cooch or something, yeah, that's a little bit, or Myers, who never fights, but has been having a hell of a playoffs as a defenseman. Somebody like that, that's going to set a tone, and I think you need to see someone come in and set that tone for us.
I love that, Joe. Great comment. And sorry, go ahead, man.
No, I 100% agree. One would be a time where we kind of want the Broad Street bully mentality to come back, right? Like everyone's like, we got to get away from the fighting. We're not bruisers anymore, blah, blah, blah. And to the point, like, I think it was at the end of the game, Jake went after, I want to say it was, I forget who it was at the end, maybe Lee, or was it Brock Nelson at the end? He went after someone at the end, and even the announcer said, they're like, hey, the Flyers kind of need that, because what happens is, and it's going to lead into the scoring, is when you engage yourself physically in a game and you're throwing the body around like Konechny, when he does that, he's physically engaged in the game. Automatically, you're dialed in, right? And you're ready to go, and you're ready to, just be a part of that game. There's a lot of times where in both series, it seemed like they didn't want to be a part of the physicality, right? Montreal beat us up, and it's Montreal, right? They beat us up a little bit. So when it comes to the lack of scoring, the biggest thing right now, and watching the game over again for a second time today, Giroux had looks. Hayes had looks. Konechny had a ton of looks yesterday. I mean, you're looking at a goal where I think it was the 2-on-1 in the first period. He hits Green's skate as Green's like making a pivot back, like 1 in a million chance that happens. But that's how it's fallen for them right now. And you see Konechny look up at the sky. Well, if he just would have kept his head down, the puck was still in the corner for his to have and to go get it again. But from being a player and having times where I go over and I got goose eggs on the board, like, it's frustrating. It really is. And I don't think people understand how frustrating it is when you're not scoring, and how much that kind of like puts a dent in your confidence, right? And like Joe said, you need to kind of switch it up and throw like a little something different out there on the power play for sure, because if you're going to get goals easier, right, in the NHL, no goals are easy, it's going to be the power play. You're a man up. And the beginning of the year, they had like 3 or 4 different looks with Drew even on the right side, just different looks just to switch it up so the defense, so it's not as predictable. And the cycle game, it's got to be there. When they get pinned in along the boards like that, any defense that has a high pressure system, especially in the PK, we're like ghosts out there. Like, we just turn the puck over, they win the board battle, it gets dumped, and we have trouble getting into the zone. And that's it. It's one and done chances. And that's the biggest thing. I think that the lack of scoring is we're one and done every time. There hasn't been, besides that second period, we haven't had any sustained pressure in really any game for more than, like a couple minutes at a time,
Yep. I do think that's been a theme. Like, I think the Flyers have also limited their opponents to the same thing. But again, if we want to win games, sustain pressure, that's the best way to score goals. It's great to try to beat a player off the rush, or beat a goalie off the rush, right? Or get a tip in, or maybe a cycle, and you just kind of throw it on net. These are great, but it's really great when you're freaking battling in front of the net. You get 1, 2, 3, and then you finally bury it on that third one. We don't even see that. Like, we're not seeing any of that. And that's where I do agree with you guys. JVR, and that's what's lacking in JVR. Go ahead, Joe.
I was going to say a perfect example of that was if anyone saw Dallas's game last night. We brought them up earlier. I think it was one of their defensemen came in and he came down the side. I'm blanking on who it was now. But he shot the shot at the goalie's feet. Then he went in to get the puck and kept pounding at it at his feet and scored a goal that way. Sometimes you just need to have a guy that's another way to pump a team up, to have a guy that never scores. Just come in and have a play that he shoots it at someone's feet, then just keeps pounding away and scoring.
Wants it.
Yeah, he really wants it. That's what Dallas was able to do yesterday with that goal, and that was
I think it was
Lindell. That was
Lindell.
Yeah, as the
he's a very good player.
But and even on the Radulov goal, all it was a puck thrown to the net, hits a defenseman, and goes off a shoulder and in. But you're not creating opportunities, and that's the big thing about it. Like they're not creating opportunities right now, and it's sad because the guys who should be scoring, like they played well all season. So it's just. It's tough to watch when they're not doing it now, the most important time of the year.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. It seems like Kevin Hayes is like the guy who's getting those really clutch opportunities, and he has been very clutch this year. But, like last night, he had a breakaway, right? He kind of got beat, poke-checked in a way, I guess, to some degree. But he could have got a shot off there or something. It just feels like every single time it was time to kind of bury it, there was something that got in their way or some kind of fumble. And it was a pretty frustrating. It's been a frustrating event from an offensive standpoint because even though they've won games, they haven't necessarily scored like beautiful goals on a regular basis, and it hasn't really been like our star players scoring. It's like I remember R.J. Umberger putting up 9 goals, in a series. That was amazing, but he wasn't the only one producing those games too. It's like we really need the other guys to step up, and I think they need it. And JVR, what we were talking about, Lindell, like that's what JVR is supposed to be doing. And I think that's why you're getting benched, dude. It's not because you're not good. It's not because you're a liability. He's not a liability. It's kind of boring to watch him play, to be honest. And I think that's why you're sitting, dude. Because you're one of the most talented players on the team, and it's literally I'm falling asleep watching you. Like you're behind the play all the time, and he's too good to be playing that way.
Well, the other thing is how we see him come into the zone and kind of like how he lowers his shoulder.
He wants it.
That's what JVR used to do as a left-hander, and all of a sudden now he can't do that and get in and create his own offense. I don't know if it's because of his injuries. Maybe it slowed him a bit, but if he can't do that, that's when you should be more in front of the net. As Ant said earlier, you have to. If the way to get you more confident again is be Mike Knuble 2.0,
exactly.
Be Mike Knuble 2.0. Just do it.
We literally talked about this Knuble the other day. We talked about it. Like you need a guy like that, and
simple
again, that's all about physically engaging yourself in the game, right? He needs to turn that dad bod into dad strength, quite honestly, and that's what needs to happen.
And I truly believe that's why he's being benched. I don't think they're really going to haven't scored a goal. No, it's because when they see you with the puck, you just don't look hungry, dude. Like Connor Bunneman comes in, he's got he's got similar physical physique to JVR. He's got less skill, he's younger, he's less developed, and every shift he is pounding the players that he's playing against as hard as he can. If JVR would do that, he already would be more successful in the postseason. I don't blame him. I think JVR is a good player. I don't think he's done in the NHL. I make it a comment that if he continues what he's doing, he'll be done in the NHL. But we saw he can still produce. So and I think that's why he got benched. I hope he is back in the game, and I hope they put him on the power play. Just like you give Ghost a second chance, JVR deserves a second chance because the upside is too high to ignore, right? Like, we're not scoring. Somebody's got to start putting the puck in the net.
And even if he doesn't do anything, he's an X factor, right? If he sits on that goal line, at least they're keeping eyes on him. Like, okay, if they move the puck down to him, he's got good hands in front of the net. It opens up for everyone else, and that's what it all comes down to. It's kind of like Joe said, we're very vanilla right now. That's what our team is. It's very vanilla, very boring. It's very interesting to see too.
Yeah, where the hell did that happen?
And JVR usually is a slow, other than that one season in Toronto, is normally a slower starter to the season. So maybe it's because it's 3 months off, it almost is a new start to a season in the highest intensity level. Maybe that's what's delaying him from a start. He normally has a slower start anyway. So hopefully this next try, as you said, a second chance, will be what gets him going.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because I feel like no matter what happens, I mean, I guess unless we make a long run, no matter what happens, I totally see the Flyers going out and filling a couple of these physicality holes in the future. And not that Pitlick isn't a good player, not that Grant isn't a good player. Maybe it'll be Grant a re-signing or Nate Thompson, but try to bring in like a big, strong, physical guy who will play on a very like a Michael Raffl with an extra 2-3 inches, another 10 pounds of muscle. Like Raffl's great, I love him. Same with Lawton, but they're not like the biggest guys. We need guys who have size that play like they have size, and I think that's important as well. And fortunately, Lindblom is a very strong player, and we don't have him. We don't have Patrick, so we'll see what happens down the line. But
they might be able to get someone like Josh Levo, since he's been in trade rumors. Obviously, that could work 6'2", kind of play similar to Raffl, a third liner, or you can move him up to the second when you have to. Yeah.
That'd be a nice pickup. I like that suggestion. Let's talk about some good stuff, actually. So we kind of ripped on guys for not performing. And I'll go to you on this one first. Who do you think has performed well? Like, who has stuck out to you? And obviously, it could be a few guys. But who would you say in game one here that had a good first game?
I mean, I think the obvious answer there is Hart still played fairly well for all things considered. I mean, that glove saving on who was it? I think it was Lee on the back door. That's an unreal save, and like that's the kind of thing that should get the team going, right? So I think he played fairly well still. Even though Konechny didn't score, I still thought he played pretty well. Like I thought his energy was there. He was involved in the play. I think he had like 4 or 5 shots on net. Like I thought he played actually pretty well. And I still continue to see like Provorov is like a silent assassin in my eyes. Like he doesn't do anything wrong, doesn't do anything great, but he's not really making mistakes. And he just looked a lot more like Provorov that we saw the whole year as opposed to what we saw in the Montreal series. So I would say those 3 guys, in my opinion, really stood out. I mean, obviously with Hart back there, he's got to be your best player too. So that's like the crazy thing in all of Philadelphia Flyers history. Usually we don't have goaltending. We're finally getting goaltending, but we're not getting the other side of it now. So at least we have that right now, and he's just unreal. So I don't know. I think